Yeah. He's the one to whom Joe Biden said, "You ain't really black unless you want
Yep,
know
I
if
know
you
who
wanna vote for
Charlemagne
me or
is.
vote for Trump." I told him the number one social problem in America, is what I call the epidemic of fatherlessness.
Yes.
70% of black kids are raised today without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. 40% of all American kids do, and the numbers are clear. Uh, if you were raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. Even Tupac, the rapper, said that, "I know that had I had a father in my life, I would have been more confident, I would have been more disciplined." 60% of all the robberies, the shootings, and the homicides in America are committed by black people, often against other black people. The number one cause of preventable death for a white teenager 19 and under is accidents like
Mhm.
car accidents or drownings or drug overdoses. The number one cause of preventable death for a black teenager, male, 19 and under, is homicide, almost always at the hands of another black male. A black male, 13 to 43, is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a white male, same demo. Now, unless we're prepared to say black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime, if it isn't the absence of fathers in the home, please tell me what it is, I told him. And he had no response to that. But
Didn't he say white supremacy or something crazy like
he
that?
did.
What's going on, everyone? Starts Queen here today. I have a new mic, so I'm trying to test it out. Hopefully, the sounds better, but as time goes on, I'll learn how to adjust. So today, I wanted to think about, I want to analyze the black vote because recently in news, young blacks under 50 are more likely or more willing to vote for the Republican Party. And I kind of want to revisit this whole thing. Why do black Americans always vote Democrat? And I found this interesting discussion between Larry Elder and Zuby, who is someone I follow on X. I've been following him for a while now, and I really like some of his takes. I actually like a lot of his takes on various topics and everything. He's more of a libertarian, if I could pinpoint his politics. But they had an interesting discussion. I kind of wanted to share my thoughts on it as we go through the video together. So, without further ado, let's get into the video.
87% of blacks live below poverty.
Mm.
This is before the Civil Rights Act of 64, before the KKK was alive and well, Jim Crow was still alive and well. You didn't have this kind of pathology. So if it's poverty and racism, how do you explain that? It's not. It's because of the breakdown of the family. And this conversation is not being had. That's one of the reasons I ran for president.
Before I let Larry Elder go in like he usually do, I want to point out something that I also think is another reason why a lot of Black Americans vote Democrat. I believe that the Black community, actually, it's not even the Black community. It's kind of human nature, right? If you told someone, hey, the biggest problem in your life is not external factors, but you, your decision making, things you do, things you chose to do, and those are the main problems, the main causes of your outcomes. Because if you saw from the intro, he named a lot of things that technically wasn't based on race. Because even now, if I look at 2024 statistics, 40% of Americans, regardless of your race, are being raised by single mother households. There's a lot of negative stats that come about with single mother households. You're more likely to be in poverty compared to a married couple. That's a fact. So when the Black community is complaining about poverty, we poor out here. I'm like, yo, blame your mom, blame your parents, because your mom, right? She chose to have you, right? Put you in the poorest position possible. But to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be raised in poverty. I was raised in poverty, and I didn't even realize I was raised in poverty until I got to around middle school. When that's when kids start trying to compare themselves to each other. Oh, you got the newest thing, I got the newest shoes. That's when you start realizing your material position in society. But in your formative years, you don't really like. I don't know. I think that statistics about you being raised in a lower social economic class, I think is somewhat played out. But I also believe it's due to culture, right? Because I believe if you look in the past, the 1930s, the Black community is poorer than the Black community of 2024. But if you look at the culture surrounding the Black community in the 1930s, it was more Christian. They were more moral. They were more likely to have been married compared to the white community. So during segregation, Black people were at their best. They were kind of thriving socially, culturally, economically. They were able to self-sustain themselves. And if they kept going in that trajectory, who knows? We might have had a different future in 2024. But these white Democrats, They could let these N-words, these ninjas, show how they can sustain themselves better than them, and they went in, destroyed the Black Wall Street. That pretty much relied on Democrats didn't like the fact that black people were able to do things for themselves, and that hurt their feelings, right? Because to me, this is the racism that white liberals participate in. They participate in the the racial helplessness narrative. Oh, black people, you're helpless. You can't do nothing without your white liberal savior. But then 1930s blacks, the Negro Business League, starting their own thing, self-sustaining, happy, right? Low crime. They're like, they don't need us for nothing. Oh no, we can't have that. And this is what you get now. And this is why I think there's so much vitriol from white liberals about black conservatives, is because it reinstilled this fact that, hey, we're not as helpless as you put out in the media. We don't need white people to come save us. And I think that's the message of the black conservative. Black conservative is, hey, government, do nothing for us. That's the tradition of Frederick Douglass. That's the tradition of Booker T. Washington. And the Black Democrats is walking the tradition of W.E. Du Bois, where they think everything can be done through political power. And there's some things that politics can't fix. One of them is your culture. And the Democrats keep continuing lying and telling black folks that they can do something for them, when in reality, there's nothing that any party can do for the black community. The black community at this point must do things more for themselves, but they've been conditioned by liberal politics, liberal mindset, especially the black woman, the most loyal Democratic voter in America, to rely on the government for all their needs. Oh, we want people to invest in our education. Why are you not investing in your own education? Why are you waiting for other taxpayer money to go and do and fund your educations when it's you who benefit the most from that? Black Americans don't want to put any skin in the game. I always like to mention the Deion Sanders situation. I said, you got all these baller athletes, all these millionaire athletes, some of them billionaire athletes, billionaire rappers, millionaire rappers. Y'all couldn't come together, tell Jackson State, hey, we want you to match the offer for Deion Sanders from University of Colorado, sorry. And we'll match it. Here, we'll donate this amount of money. All of us are going to donate $100,000 to your college. Use those funds to match the offer with University of Colorado, so that way Deion Sanders can stay at a historically black college. This is how me, as a black conservative, I'll move, because black conservatives, we believe that it's more on human capital to change the outcomes of your community than political. The politics follow after. You know what they say? Politics is a downstream of culture. That means your politics don't change until you change the culture. Your outcomes don't change until you change the culture, right? And this is what I'm trying to say. I'm like, yo, you want the Democrats to be held accountable. How are you going to hold a party accountable when you're continuing voting for the same party? Charlemagne the idiot, I'm sorry, Charlemagne says that he won't endorse Joe Biden, but he's going to vote for Joe Biden because he has to protect democracy. Bro, your action says you endorse him. A dude that you complain about, you say he was ineffective, he wasn't progressive enough for you, but you're still going to reward him with your vote. Make it make sense. Oh, I don't like your product. I think your product's a crappy product, but I'll still buy it over the competitor because I don't like the competitor. Even though the competitor has more to offer currently than the current crappy product that I continue complaining about, and I expect the company to change their mind. No, if they ain't suffering no profit loss, look at the Bud Light situation. If they're not suffering any profit loss, if they're still making money, they don't need to change squat. And that's the problem with black community voting overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party. Because in politics, loyalty is not rewarded. But black people keep sitting here pretending it is. Y'all keep listening to Roland Martin and them, whose main job is to filter out any information that goes contrary to the pro-democratic agenda, right? Even this false equivalency with blackness and Democrats, that it makes no effing sense. But I digress. I think I went on a long rant, but I felt like I needed to say that. Let's continue with the video.
I knew that I wasn't going to get the nomination, but I hoped that I could get the people running to begin talking about this. And to pat myself on the back, Vivek started talking about it. And even Trump did. He and I had a meeting in Mar-a-Lago about 2 or 3 months ago, and I mentioned this to him, and he tweeted something about it. So you're right. We straighten that out. Many of the problems that we are complaining about go away. The crime. we have in California, there's been a rash of smash and grabs where a bunch of young people come into a store and steal stuff. Often they're wearing masks, so you can't tell what race they are. But when they're not, and when they get busted, most of them tend to be black. I would be more afraid of my father than I would be of getting caught by the police if I got involved in something like that. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're understaffed. They're pulling back. So they're not afraid of either their father or the police.
And this is the result of I don't need a man culture, right? This is the result of not respecting the position of fathers. Because I told this story a lot on this channel, but not really. I think I spoke about this story one time. I had a friend of mine, right? Black dude, obviously, this college educated, usual black progressive type guy, social justice type guy. And me and him on Father's Day had a debate about the necessity of fathers. And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, you realize I'm a father too, right? You realize I'm not a single dude out here just having fun like you guys. I'm actually married and have kids, and you're trying to debate me on the necessity of fatherhood. This is the kind of stuff that happens in the black community. There's no, I had to tell him, I'm like, yo, I appreciate my dad. My dad instilled confidence and self esteem in a way in me that I don't think anyone else can or could. My father showed me what it means to be a father, what it means to prepare your children for the world. Because that's how my father raised me in the few times he could, because I grew up in a co parenting situation, and thank God for it. Because I'm looking at all the outcomes of dudes raised solely by single mothers, highly emotional. My dad used to always tell me the most dangerous person is someone who can't control themselves. And who's more likely to can't control themselves? Dudes raised by women. Sorry, not sorry. This is the truth. And it's other factors that come into play. For instance, if you're a single mom, you're most likely don't have the time to raise your kid. You don't have the time to supervise your kid. So that means there's a lot of pressure and or responsibility for the child to somewhat raise themselves because you're busy providing for the family. So I give you some grace there. But there's some women, especially in the black community, that outwardly disrespect the position of the father. And that's another reason why your culture is downhill. This is another reason why you're in poverty. Because if you look at stats, the only way women produce generational wealth is if they're married. That's the facts. If you look at stats, women are less likely to understand what financial literacy compared to men. Men are more interested in financial literacy. Men are more willing to teach themselves financial literacy. Hell, I'm the statistic. I taught myself economics. I didn't have to go to college. I went to college for something else, but I had an interest in economics thanks to Thomas Sowell. You think the average black woman is financially literate? And if you try to compete with me online and tell me, "Oh, Kenny, you're wrong about that. Women are more educated than black men on various topics. We're more degreed up and all that stuff." I say, "Oh, that don't explain the eviction rates that you guys have. Black women have the highest eviction rates with all groups of women." And I blame this mostly because a lot of y'all are single mothers. Single mothers are the poorest demographic, regardless of race, in America. And on top of that, you come from an economic group that don't value education, that doesn't value financial literacy, budgeting, financial discipline, right? Grow up in a materialist culture. Women are responsible for, I believe, 85% of consumer spending. That means you don't spend your money wisely, black woman. And on top of that, you come from a poor economic class. Of course, you'll be more likely to be evicted. But instead of focusing on the behavior problem that a lot of black women or whatever or black people have, you want to focus on race. Oh, look at this disproportional outcome, racism. But they don't. But that's like this is why I say that racism is mostly a scapegoat. And I think the main reason why black people vote for Democratic Party is that the Democratic Party is more likely to present them a scapegoat and validate and confirm a lot of the biases and worldviews that the black community have. That's why they say all you have to do is pander for the black vote and you'll get the black vote. And then when the Republicans don't want to pander to you and it's just like, nah, we don't need to give you a preferential treatment. We know our policies work for anybody as long as you're an American. Black, oh, nah. That's racist. Oh, racist is the Republican Party. So not giving you special treatment, Black America, is racism. That's what they call the Republican Party. That's what they essentially challenge the Republican Party for. We're allowed to talk about everyone's history, but the minute you talk about slavery, Black people ready to fight you. You make a contrary point about slavery based on facts, they don't like it. They get emotional and say, no, 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 you shouldn't have said anything. It seemed like to me the black community is not really looking for solutions. They're just looking for compliance. They're looking for someone to kiss up to them, tell them what they want to hear. And then they get mad when Democrats only come around every 4 years, because that's all they need to get your vote. That's all they need to get 90% of the vote. That might work for the older black community, but the younger crowd, I think you're starting the trend. And that's who I'm really trying to speak to. I'm not trying to speak to the older blacks who are already set in their ways, that's going to dismiss me because I'm a young guy, 28-year-old young guy. I'm not talking to them. Because when I talk about, hey, racism not a big issue in my life, they bring up stuff in the 1996 where I was only a baby. And I'm like, okay, is that how you know it's the same case now? I live I live in the least racist time in American history, and you're still complaining about problems about 1996. It seems like a lot of these older black Americans, they want me to judge America where it was instead of where it's at. And that's impossible. You only can judge your country where it's at. 1996, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have smart TVs, we didn't have Wi-Fi. But you want to operate as if none of that stuff changed, none of that stuff exists. And that's the black community right now. This is why I say, hey, yo, look, what's holding the black community back is the fact that we don't want to change strategies. Actually, we don't even have a strategy. Well, we gotta vote collectively for this one party. For what reason? They can't give it to you. They'll say because you're black. And this is a big problem. I'll let this video play out one more minute, and then I'll give my final thoughts.
We should be talking about that more, but we're not.
Yeah, they're uncomfortable conversations. And I think that is why ultimately why people avoid it. And I think
It's ultimately why people call me the black face of white supremacy too. Seriously.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I ran for governor, when the run was over, I went back to radio to fulfill my contract, and I invited the woman who referred to me as the black face of white supremacy to come on my show. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is I've said or done that makes me the black face of white supremacy. Talking about fatherlessness makes me the black face of white supremacy. Talking about how bad urban school makes me that.
Not blaming the problem on racism is the reason why he's the face of black supremacy, right? The whole problem with this whole, like, the black community, and that's why I said y'all stuck in some like dogma. Oh, it's this cultural effect that like the black Democrat has been able to extol, right? In the 1965s, Malcolm X said if you put a party first and that party puts you last consistently over and over again, and you continually vote for that same party over and over again, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. He was talking about the black community voting Democrat. Yet you guys are doing the exact thing that he in 1965 complained about. You continually put the Democratic Party first. You continually complain about how the Democratic Party got y'all in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party, but y'all never choose to leave. And then when Cardi B actually did something that I could actually respect, hey, I don't like neither of those choices, I ain't voting. Black Democrats say, no, you have to vote. But if Cardi B said she was going to vote for Trump, y'all demonize her for that too. So there's only really one option that it seems like, at least from, the imagery or what the messaging that's out there, it seems like the only choice you have is you have to vote Democrat. Make that make sense. But then these same people come in my comment section saying, oh, we can use both sides. Well, pick the least trade-off, the least worst option, because there's no perfect solution. There's no perfect politics. There's no perfect politician. Life is about trade-offs, and this is stuff I learned in engineering. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. Which trade-offs would you rather have? Which compromise would you rather have? And the black communities don't seem to be operating in that model. They seem to be operating in this fairy tale where they can get reparations with no negative outcome, no negative effects on society. They think they can have preferential treatment and not so socially discontent amongst the citizenry, because we live in a multiracial republic. We have Asians, we have whites, we have Hispanics. It's not black and white anymore. It's black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Vietnamese, Indians. Like there's other racial groups here. So to have this like almost self-centered worldview that everything should revolve around the black community, that's what the Democratic Party pandered to. Talking about they giving credit to, it's because the black women came out and vote. That's why we beat Donald Trump. No, the reality is more white voters shifted away from Trump, and that's what cost Trump the election 2020. not the black women vote. Because if you're a part, like imagine this, that's a lie in of itself. Imagine believing that you're a group that vote 90% for one party and you decide the election. No, all you did was do what you're supposed to do to make sure that your party wins. Because if the black vote chose not to vote, it doesn't hurt Republicans because Republicans been winning without the black vote for years since I think Nixon. I forgot who's the last Republican to have the black vote. But the Republican Party already shown that they can win without you. And this is why I try to warn Black America that, hey, your political power is waning in this country. And continuing to vote for the same party over and over again is not really helping your cause. No one's competing for your vote. And if no one's competing for your vote, you have no leverage. But these black Democrats will lie to you and tell you, oh, no, you can have leverage while still voting for the same party. All you got to do is complain more. The politicians don't care about you complaining. Y'all didn't like Biden. Y'all still going to vote for Biden. Charlemagne represents that. Charlemagne is the perfect model of what the Democrat Party knows about the black community. They'll complain. They'll itch and moan. They'll cry all day on the internet, but they'll still vote for us. And this is why I don't get nothing. This is why your agenda doesn't get pushed. This is why y'all stagnate. Oh, the Democrat Party don't do nothing for us anymore. Because that's the limits of their power. You have to understand what's feasible and what's not feasible. And you have to understand a politician will tell you all the desirabilities of their policies. And it's up to you to understand the feasibility or the possibility or the probability of that policy actually being put into fruition. But it seems like the black community don't want to do that kind of legwork. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think of the new sound, the mic? Let me know your thoughts on why you think Black America always votes Democrat. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. I appreciate you, everything you do. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.